South Africa has been shaken to its core by a revelation that threatens to redefine the country's political landscape and alter the balance of power at the highest levels of government. What began as quiet speculation surrounding the sudden death of former Arts and Culture Minister Nathi Mthethwa has now erupted into a national scandal with international implications. Mthethwa, found dead just weeks ago in a luxury hotel in Paris, was initially believed to have suffered a medical emergency. However, inconsistencies in the official narrative soon emerged, fueling suspicions of foul play and prompting growing public unease. Missing security footage, contradictory witness accounts, and the sudden silence of hotel staff who had previously spoken to the media all contributed to a sense that the truth was being deliberately obscured. Behind the scenes, General Nathi Mthethwa, widely known for his unwavering commitment to justice and resistance to political pressure, was quietly pursuing a parallel investigation that would soon upend everything South Africans thought they knew about the case. For weeks, Nathi Mthethwa worked under intense strain, enduring sleepless nights, clandestine briefings, and persistent interference from unnamed but powerful political figures allegedly determined to derail his investigation. Sources close to him described mounting pressure from multiple quarters, warnings disguised as advice, and subtle threats intended to force him to abandon his pursuit of the truth. Yet his resolve never wavered. Late one night, he summoned journalists to a secure government facility in Pretoria, setting the stage for a disclosure that would send shockwaves across the nation and beyond. The atmosphere was heavy with tension as cameras flashed and recorders clicked, every person in the room aware that something extraordinary was about to unfold. Speaking with calm precision, Nathi Mthethwa announced that investigators had identified those responsible for the death of Nathi Mthethwa, adding that the evidence connected them to entrenched political and financial power structures that had long operated in the shadows of the nation. He made it clear that this was not merely about one man's death, but about a system that had grown accustomed to secrecy and impunity. As he paused and looked directly into the cameras, Nathi Mthethwa declared that South Africans deserved the truth, even if it shook the country to its foundations. His words carried a gravity that silenced the room. Over the course of nearly 2 hours, he laid out a detailed account of the investigation's findings, each revelation more disturbing than the last. According to his statement, 2 South African operatives traveling under diplomatic passports were seen entering Mthethwa's hotel suite in Paris shortly before midnight on the night of his death. Merely 14 minutes later, they exited through a restricted service corridor. Hotel logs showed no official record of their presence, and investigators uncovered evidence suggesting that Paris police had been instructed by unnamed South African officials to stay away from the case. These disclosures transformed what had once been whispered suspicions into a chilling portrait of a calculated operation carried out beyond the reach of ordinary oversight. Within minutes of the announcement, panic reportedly spread through the highest ranks of the African National Congress. At Luthuli House in Johannesburg, senior party members were said to be locked in emergency meetings as confusion and fear gripped the leadership. Insiders described an atmosphere of chaos and disbelief, with some officials openly questioning how much more might be revealed. President Ramaphosa was reportedly seen pacing the corridors as the news broke, while security protocols at the Union buildings were suddenly heightened. Communications teams were instructed to monitor media coverage closely and prepare an official response, even as uncertainty rippled through the party. More alarming were reports that several ANC veterans, including individuals who had worked closely with Mthethwa, had gone into hiding or suspended public appearances altogether, signaling a deep sense of fear about who might be implicated next. In what many analysts described as the most damning portion of his statement, Nathi Mthethwa revealed that investigators had traced multiple electronic transfers between a state-linked business account in Johannesburg and a foreign account in Luxembourg. These transactions, made just 2 days before Mthethwa's death, were allegedly used to finance the travel of one of the operatives. Each payment was labeled as cultural cooperation expenses, a detail that strongly suggested deliberate concealment rather than coincidence. Even more disturbing was the recovery of deleted CCTV data from the Paris hotel's backup servers. Among the footage was a crucial 37-second clip that allegedly showed one of the suspects placing a small vial into Dua's drink moments before leaving the room. Nathi Mthethwa stated unequivocally that investigators had both the footage and witnesses, emphasizing that attempts to erase the evidence had failed. The response from the ANC was swift but defensive. A party spokesperson dismissed the allegations as baseless, reckless, and politically motivated, accusing Nathi Mthethwa of fueling conspiracy theories and division. Yet behind closed doors, even loyalists reportedly expressed fear and confusion. One senior member was quoted privately as saying that this was no longer a rumor and that the evidence presented appeared substantial. According to analysts, the panic within the party stemmed not only from the allegations themselves, but from what Dua may have been preparing to reveal before his death. Reports suggest that he was on the verge of releasing highly sensitive documents involving state tenders, secret construction contracts, and political payoffs that could have implicated high-ranking government figures. If true, his death would appear not as a tragic accident, but as a calculated effort to silence him. As news of Nathi Mthethwa's disclosure spread, social media erupted into a digital firestorm. Hashtags demanding justice and accountability trended for hours as citizens voiced outrage and disbelief. Protesters gathered outside ANC headquarters, waving banners and chanting for the truth, while civil rights organizations called for an independent international inquiry. Opposition parties seized the moment, demanding that President Ramaphosa step aside pending a full investigation. Before leaving the podium, Nathi Mthethwa delivered a chilling final message, acknowledging the personal risks he faced but insisting that he would not be silent. He described Dua as a friend, a patriot, and a man who knew too much, warning that the same forces that silenced him might attempt to silence others. With that, he walked away without taking questions, leaving reporters stunned and the nation reeling. Legal experts quickly weighed in, suggesting that if the evidence holds under scrutiny, this could become the largest political scandal in South African history. Predictions of mass resignations, arrests, and far-reaching international consequences dominated commentary. Reports indicated that French authorities had requested an official briefing, while diplomatic sources suggested that Interpol could soon become involved. Within South Africa, public confidence in the ANC appeared to erode rapidly as opinion polls showed a dramatic decline in trust. For a population already weary from years of corruption scandals, economic uncertainty, and political infighting, the possibility that a prominent figure had been deliberately eliminated struck a deeply unsettling chord. Analysts warned that the implications of Nathi Mthethwa's disclosure extend far beyond one man's death. If further evidence emerges, the scandal could expose a vast network of political and financial actors who have long operated beyond scrutiny. International attention only heightens the stakes, with potential consequences for South Africa's diplomatic relations, investor confidence, and global reputation. Inside the ANC, fear and uncertainty now dominate, as senior officials reportedly question who might be exposed next and focus on crisis management rather than governance. The corridors of power, once marked by confidence and control, now echo with rumors, suspicion, and vulnerability. Public reaction has been intense and sustained. Civil society groups and ordinary citizens are demanding not just explanations, but a comprehensive accounting of how such a betrayal of trust could occur. Social media continues to amplify this outcry, reflecting deep frustration with entrenched political structures and the perception that elites operate with impunity. At the heart of the scandal lies a fundamental question about the depth and reach of corruption within the state. The evidence presented raises serious concerns about the misuse of public resources, the manipulation of diplomatic privileges, and the silencing of whistleblowers, all of which strike at the foundation of democratic accountability. For President Ramaphosa, the stakes could not be higher. Observers argue that his response to the crisis will define both his legacy and the future of the ANC. Decisive action, including transparent investigations and cooperation with international authorities, could mitigate long-term damage. Failure to act, however, risks deepening public mistrust and reinforcing perceptions of complicity. Internationally, the eyes of the world remain fixed on South Africa as media outlets frame the unfolding events as a dramatic reckoning in a nation already grappling with instability. As the country stands at this critical crossroads, one question looms over every institution and household: how far does the truth go, and who else will fall as it emerges? The scandal has laid bare the fragility of political structures and the potential for abuse at the highest levels of power. For many South Africans, this moment represents both a reckoning and a call to action, a reminder that transparency and accountability are essential to preserving democracy. Whether this revelation becomes a catalyst for meaningful reform or another unresolved chapter in a long history of scandal remains uncertain. What is undeniable is that the truth has begun to surface, and the status quo has been irreversibly disrupted, leaving a nation watching, questioning, and waiting for what comes next.